If Miss Young had gotten out of that car, sure, she might have gotten booked for shoplifting, maybe even arrested, which I am sure would have been a potential annoyance, but she would have been annoyed and alive. And if cops were wrong in interpelling her, which they weren't, but even if they were, there are appropriate channels through which she could have complained. None of them, however, involve her just driving off. See, we march in the streets screaming that Black Lives Matter, but the people to whom they're supposed to matter the most, which is black people, seem to be the one endangering those same black lives with reckless abandon. Being the most dangerous commentary show on Beyonce's internet comes with its own set of challenges. YouTube time and time again refuses to promote our videos because we have very controversial takes on extremely sensitive subjects. So chances are, if you stumbled on this clip by accident, you'll never get to see our content again unless you hit that subscribe button. It only takes 1 second. But either way, we're glad you're here. And now, back to the clip. Loud Black Lives Matter cries recently echoed in Columbus, Ohio, following the police killing of 21-year-old expecting mother of 2, Takiya Young. Miss Young can be seen on the Kroger CCTV cameras shoplifting copious amounts of alcohol before walking out of the store. She is immediately confronted by police and asked to step out of her vehicle. She refuses to follow said commands and proceeds to drive off, nearly hitting one of the officers. A single shot is fired, resulting in her death. Jesse, the sad receipts.
A supermarket car park in Columbus, Ohio. 2 police officers had been called to help someone locked out of their car. As one worked on that, his partner, Beyond, is talking to another driver, unrelated to the call-out, who had just been accused of shoplifting.
Hey, out of the car.
From that officer's camera, you can see him approaching the driver's side of Takaya Young's vehicle.
Out of the car.
The first officer then joins him and moves round to the front of the car.
They said, your stole stuff, do not leave. Get out of the car. Then get out.
As she tries to drive off, it escalates to this.
Shots fired! Stop the car!
A shot fired by the officer who was in front of the vehicle. It then rolls to a standstill.
7 back in service 1828.
This is the same moment from the point of view of the officer who fired. His drawn weapon visible.
Get out of the car.
And one shot as the car drives into him. Takaya Young was 21, a mother of 2 boys and expecting a daughter in November. The shot hit her chest. She and her unborn baby both died. A statement from the family reflects their heartbreak and their anger. With heavy hearts and
It of course goes without saying that the death of an expecting mother and her unborn child is tragic no matter how you slice it. The question, however, was if her death was as a result of racist cops murdering yet another unarmed black woman. You heard the lady in that clip implying that there was no presence of a weapon and that the cops could have let her go and pursued her later on since they knew which car she was in, which is an utterly comical suggestion. First of all, because there is such a thing as vehicular manslaughter, and sure, the cop was stupid for standing in front of a vehicle, but the vehicle wasn't moving at the time. Her decision to nearly run over that officer is why her remaining children will now have to grow up without a mother. Secondly, our entire society is predicated on the rule of law. And if the laws in place are not being enforced, how long before society descends into chaos and anarchy? We've seen the result of such a laissez-faire attitude in cities like San Francisco and Portland, where crime is not only rampant, but brazen. Watch as a CNN reporter walks into a Walgreens in San Francisco and within a half hour manages to witness the store getting hit by shoplifters not once, but 3 times. Jesse, the kleptomaniac receipts.
San Francisco businesses fed up with crime. One sandwich shop owner is calling for action after he says he was attacked outside his store. He says he yelled at a man to stop urinating on his trash can and then was sucker punched. His Instagram post about the incident has now gone viral.
I'm fed up with this goddamn city. It's like, I can't just be outside and just running a business without getting punched in the goddamn face. It shouldn't be this way at all. Like, this isn't how our city should be.
Now, it's not clear what was said before the altercation or whether there's even video of it, but San Francisco police have said they are investigating. It comes as some stores are locking up everything from coffee to frozen food to try to combat theft. Our Kyung Law visited one Walgreens that's hit by shoplifters more than a dozen times a day. It happened 3 times while she was inside.
Richie Greenberg walked into a San Francisco Walgreens when he saw in the frozen food section this.
Chains, heavy chains that went from padlock to padlock on both sides of the doors, and this was bizarre, something I'd never seen before. This is just more icing on the cake, telling us that rampant crime has become a regular part of life.
So typical that in the 30 minutes we were at this Walgreens, we watched 3 people, including this man, steal.
Did that guy pay? Did that guy pay? He didn't pay.
Walgreens says this Richmond neighborhood store with aisles of products like mustard locked behind plexiglass has the highest theft rate of all their nearly 9,000 U.S. stores, hit more than a dozen times a day. When thieves turned to cleaning out ice cream and frozen burritos, workers grew so frustrated they resorted to the chains. They were ordered down by corporate because of the negative messaging.
Now, what you hear from the leadership in these cities is that the rise in shoplifting is due to the fact that people are poor and hungry. But in the case of Takaya Young, she was shoplifting alcohol while 6 months pregnant. Who exactly did she intend to feed that alcohol to? Herself? Her children? But all that aside, yes, shoplifting alcohol is not a death sentence. But not complying with law enforcement when asked to can be. I'm not sure why so many of us in the Black community are under the impression that when cops make demands of you, that it is somehow just a mere suggestion. If Miss Young had gotten out of that car, sure, she might have gotten booked for shoplifting, maybe even arrested, which I am sure would have been a potential annoyance, but she would have been annoyed and alive. And if cops were wrong in interpelling her, which they weren't, but even if they were, there are appropriate channels through which she could have complained. None of them, however, involve her just driving off. See, we march in the streets screaming that Black lives matter, but the people to whom they're supposed to matter the most, which is Black people, seem to be the one endangering those same Black lives with reckless abandon. The worst part, however, is these anti-police activists that instantly pop out of the woodwork when tragedies like these unfold, calling for such measures as defunding the police until it's their turn to need law enforcement. Like this woman, Shivanti Sathanandan, who following the death of George Floyd tweeted the following: "Say it with me, dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department." Her tune, however, quickly changed last week when she was carjacked in her own driveway while her children watched. Jesse, the scandalous receipts.
Police are searching for the carjackers who attacked a political party leader in front of her kids.
Shivanthi Sathanadone shared this image of her bloodied face on social media. Minneapolis police say a group attacked the DFL party's second vice chair in her driveway earlier this week. WCCO's Reg Chapman spoke with a neighbor who rushed in to help.
On the street that borders Falwell Park, you'll find flower-lined sidewalks that lead to well-kept yards of maintained homes, a place where butterflies flourish and neighbors know one another. The tranquility in this pocket of North Minneapolis was shattered Tuesday evening.
Oh, there's these about 5-6 kids.
James Tousineau was building a fence for a neighbor when he saw a group of young people walk by.
And next thing you know, we heard some screaming from kids and a female, and Kane and TK ran down the alley first.
James says the group attacked a neighbor in her own driveway while her kids screamed for help. He joined neighbors in the alley wanting to help, but they were forced to stop in their tracks.
And we seen the guns. They were just pointing it. They weren't saying nothing. That's when TK yelled, "Get out, leave her alone." And the kids jumped in her vehicle and tore out of there. They couldn't even get the thing to go into gear because they didn't even know how to drive yet.
The victim, Shivanthi Sathanadone, second vice chair of the DFL. On social media, she thanked officers and raged against the criminals. We need to get illegal guns off of our streets, catch these young people who are running wild, creating chaos across our city. Her neighbors glad her injuries will eventually heal and determined more than ever to look out for one another.
She come by thanking us and stuff, but I mean, I don't thank us because really anyone should have been there. Anyone that was out should have been there. You know, helping, protecting their neighborhood.
Reg Chapman, WCCO.
See, liberal chickens coming home to roost. No one deserves to get carjacked in front of their children. But how many people in her town suffer the same fate as a result of her calls to diminish law enforcement? But now that these monsters she insisted should be let loose come for her, now she wants to switch positions. No, man. Keep that same energy all across the board. Absolutely preposterous.